Stratian Voices, and our voice today is radio personality George Piper. Welcome to my Montserrat, George. Go on.
Hey, thanks much, Brian. Thanks much. Everything good so far.
Okay. Introduce yourself to us briefly. Tell us which part of the island you're from.
Actually, I'm from the capital, Plymouth. For those people who remember Plymouth, that's downtown George Street to be exact. And Lower George Street, that's where I'm actually from. Over the years, started off back in the day, basketball. George playing basketball with Ali Catson at Radio Montserrat, and then Gem FM, and JGP, and that's the name JGP.
Okay. Well, let me take you back a little bit, to the beginning there. How did you get into broadcasting?
How did I get into broadcasting? It's a funny thing. I don't even remember, in a sense, how I got into it. But what happened is that somewhere along the line, it got with me. And Bill Tong, who used to work at Radio Montserrat back then, and Mike Jarvis and so on. And Montserrat being such a small place, we would see each other and chat and so on. So when I reached from St. Mary's School, then going to Maple Leaf School, and then going to college. So one time, I think Rose Willock heard me speaking or something. I did an electrical course at the Montserrat Technical College with Richard Aspin.
Right.
And at one time, we had to do like a job placement thing. So I was at Radio Montserrat as a studio technician. And so I was around the microphones and so on for a while. So being in a small business place like Montserrat and Radio JGP, you have to do everything. So besides taking care of the equipment and all that, now and then I would have to do voicings for commercials and so on, as well as hold on for some people, including Wilsey White and so on. Mm-hmm. And it took off from there. Okay.
So what was working with Wilsey like?
Interesting, actually. Because as you know, or probably don't know for the people who know, Wilsey White is one of the biggest names in broadcasting in the region, especially on the Leeward Island side. So he was like an encyclopedia back then. He knew a whole lot. And you ended up doing things and learning things without realizing you were doing them and learning them. Like I said, you have to step in sometimes. So Mr. White, Wilsey White would tell you, hey, hold on and do this for me. And you end up doing it, and you become good at it without even realizing it was part of work. So that's how it is. But working with him was rather interesting. You learn a lot. We traveled all over Montserrat a lot doing recordings and all that. So that's how it is.
I mean, and he was at the forefront of recording and preserving our culture. I mean, when you look back today, what little we do have in terms of the culture, the Kaiso and some of the earlier shows and so was largely thanks to him. Without him, we'd be lost, pretty much.
Yes, back then you had the old recording equipment. You didn't have the things like the Adobe and the computer and that sort of technology like you had today. You had recordings and tapes and all that. Yards and yards and yards of tape. And you had to be putting off spools of tape to rush and put on the next one. So when you're recording church services, the Calypso shows, them old shows like with Sturge Park back in the day of Ruler and Saltfish and Hero and Arrow and Christopher, we can go way back.
Right.
So you had to learn, you had to work in an environment of preservation and conservation, like I said, without realizing you were doing all these things. You just had to hustle and do it and keep all these things in mind, because you didn't have the hardware and the equipment like you do now to have thousands of hours loaded up on one little chip like you have today.
Right. And somebody was telling me, I think it was Dictionary was telling me Wilsey would come into the band house, and actually record and write at the spot in practice.
Yes.
I have it on the ear next morning.
You have to do things like that in order to get some sort of material. There are times you have to be innovative and go here and go there just to get something, because once you didn't do it then, once you didn't do things like that then, you would have been lost.
Right.
So that's like the forerunners of recording and what's regarded as being accepted and being so modern today.
Okay. How long were you at Radio Montserrat?
At Radio Montserrat, let's see, how long was I at Radio Montserrat? Probably about 10 years, I think, at Radio Montserrat. I think I was there for a while. Started off, like I said, doing the studio technician bit.
Right.
And then having to hold on, and after a while, I ended up being on air. Then I went to college, Montserrat Technical College.
Right.
And they always said, well, Roseville always said, no boy, we have to get you. You know, and something had happened, and they came back and asked for me again.
Uh-huh.
And I just took it. You know, maybe that was how it was supposed to be, because
right.
they actually came always looking for me,
mm-hmm.
and it took off from there.
I mean, and speaking of Wilsey, you also got to work with another legend in Roseville.
Yeah, Roseville, another person I also learned from, and it's so funny because Montserrat is so small. Probably the living area is even smaller now because of the volcanic activity and all that.
Right.
But Rose has always been physically my neighbor in town. We never lived that far apart from each other.
Right.
We lived pretty close on George Street and those areas around there. And I think I had to do an interview. Rose was interviewing us from the technical college. And when she was speaking to me, she said, but wait, have you ever been on the radio before? And I said no, and she was really surprised. Now, I was wondering why she was surprised, because Rose knows me from a little boy.
Right, right.
She knows me from that time. So, and she was serious. She said, I've been on radio before. And I said no, and she said, oh boy, you have to come and work. So it ended up like that. After going to college and all that, and then ended up going to JGP.
Okay. And you were basketball George, and that was your on year. And I was on your thing. The
basketball George thing actually came from me playing basketball.
Okay.
Playing for the Alley Cats basketball team, which was the original Alley Cats, made up of George Street players, George Street basketball players, Chalky, myself, Percy Roach, Shines, even Steady KB was like the originator of it all. Peter White. It was really an exciting time. Glenville, White, who else? A whole lot of people. And at one time, Rachel Collis played with us for a while. Our big center was Sammy Hunter, Poopy, to call it.
yeah, Sammy.
All of us lived all in the same area.
Right.
And we became like a dominant force. And then some of the guys, we had enough guys to make two teams. So the Shines and Chalky and those guys went and formed Ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
The Ghetto side, which is like Upper George Street.
Right.
So when we used to play basketball, I mean, we used to started off down at the Cotton Ginnery, where we had crowds coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it moved to the Shamrock Cinema basketball court.
Right.
Where the games, they were so big that there were nights when the Shamrock Cinema had to close down because the people used to come from all long ground, all over Montserrat to see basketball.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Who was Eddie Brett playing for?
Eddie was playing for Jubilee at one time.
Oh, okay.
Jubilee, and I think he played a bit for school, I'm not sure, but Eddie played for Jubilee at one time.
So listen, when you left Radio Montserrat and then you moved on to Gem Radio? Gem FM, right.
Again, what happened, there were other people there before me, Montserrat. I think the first Montserrat-based on-air personality who worked at besides Rosie White, was Richard. He was in Montserrat, and then he moved to Trinidad. But
yeah, okay. Richard Graham?
Richard Graham.
Okay.
That's right. Richard Graham was actually at Gem FM. And then what had happened, Rosie White was one of the originators at Gem FM. Back then it was actually called ZGM.
Oh, okay.
ZGEM. Mm-hmm. Over the years changed to Gem FM. And what happened, the same thing basically happened again. Gem FM started off as a satellite receiving facility, getting the audio feeds and so on from the United States.
Right, right.
And then the talk came up that, as more and more people started listening, they wanted to get that physical presence of the Caribbean, Montserrat / the Caribbean.
Right.
And a talk came up that a good candidate for it, for there might be me.
Mm-hmm.
So at one time when I think some of the on-air personalities from the States were going to be visiting, they needed to have a physical presence in the studio.
Right.
For Montserrat. So then I ended up at Gem FM.
Okay. If my memory serves me correctly, it was you started out with upstairs was it Arrows building?
Shop,
right.
In the Castle building down at
Marine Drive. Right.
And then made some moves around. We went on to Church Road.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course since the volcanic activity went over to Salem.
Right.
You know, and at one time this should be the equipment itself, the recording equipment itself was actually in town. So we had to get into town, John Silkett and myself, to get into town to put on like the volcano warnings and so on, and then hustle out the town in the night. You know, so a lot of changes, a lot of things were done through Montserrat, and which brought us to where we are today.
Mm-hmm. Today you're with Caribbean Superstation.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
The Caribbean Superstation is like, again, another change from Gem FM, brought up by another company.
Mm-hmm.
And right now the Caribbean Superstation is on a bigger scale. It's on a bigger scale with more personnel around the Caribbean, more connections, more sister stations. It's actually one big network.
Mm-hmm.
And we have sister stations in Grenada, St. Lucia, Barbados, and in Trinidad. We also have frequencies in certain islands around the Caribbean, of course, including Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts Nevis, Barbados, St. Lucia, Grenada, and so on. And also, with more frequencies to come, where you can actually listen to us on the radio. And it's also online.
Okay. What's the URL?
Online at www.yourcss.net. However, you can also access it by simply bringing up Caribbean Superstation, 3 words, and it's directed at Caribbean Superstation.
Okay, and I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Throws it to that, and you can listen live, participate in contests, and a whole lot of other things.
So you play primarily Caribbean music?
Yes, the Caribbean Superstation, our format is Caribbean and Caribbean-related world music, that type of thing. So, yes, you're from the Caribbean, you have material, it will be played on the Caribbean Superstation. You are of the Caribbean connection, Caribbean diaspora,
right.
Music and material will be played. As well as that world music and you know, the reggae, calypsos, that type of music, it's there. So if it's even of a jazz related sound, it's from the Caribbean, it has Caribbean connections, it's going to be on the Caribbean Superstation.
Okay, nice. And the station right now is your home base is in Trinidad?
The Caribbean Superstation based in Trinidad. It's based in Trinidad.
Okay. And what's your role?
I do the afternoon prime time, drive time show, 2 until 6 Caribbean time, as well as do programming for the Caribbean Superstation as well. Some of my duties include checking out material to be on the air, checking out anything related to the Caribbean as such, whether it be artists, music, events.
Right.
So it's a little more hectic than even with Gem FM, which was a network in its own right.
Oh, okay.
Easter weekend, boy, that was a big weekend in Montserrat. That was the beach. That was everything. You had, in terms of, well, you had Good Friday.
Right.
Good Friday, you had that. And then Saturday, you had, everybody knows it's going to be a long weekend. Saturday, you had basketball. You had basketball going on, if I remember correctly. And it was like still a fetting weekend. Religious in a sense and still the holiday weekend.
Right.
Because you had the discos, you had to still go to back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
The car, 747. So that was part of the bigger excitement. Basketball, downtown, Shamrock Cinema. Then you have the cinema as well.
Right.
Sunday, same thing. I mean, it might sound whether crazy or tame to some people, but that was a big thing because Montserrat was still, there's still always that traditional.
Right.
So those are some of the big things. You'll have your church, you have your bazaars, some places have bazaars.
Uh-huh.
You go to those. So down in town, basketball, you have the discos at night, basketball at night. You're not cinema will show some sort of religious movie.
Right.
Cinema is going to show some sort of religious movie. Church is on for the weekend. You have your church recording to do. So on the day, somewhere during the day, when it's in the church service, on the radio, mm-hmm. on Radio Montserrat. It wasn't even Radio Montserrat. Monday, the big day for Easter Monday really.
Yeah, that was it. That was a big thing.
That was a big thing, Easter Monday really. You of course, you're a part of that.
Right.
You're a part of that. So people used to come out to see that. I mean, people just come out to see that. Also use as a time to just have a good time.
Right. And then, it's also a weekend you had a lot of Antiguans coming in.
A lot of people coming in from that weekend. Mostly Antiguans will be coming in. And it's funny you said that because periodically I would get calls from people who ask me if I remember them. Some I remember, yes. But hearing them on the phone, I might not remember the persons until I see them.
Right.
But then remind me about the times that they come into Montserrat for Easter. A lot of people coming in, especially to Antigua for the Easter, but not just Antigua. From around St. Kitts, from St. Martin and so on coming up.
Right.
Some people also use it to go out and do a little shopping down in St. Martin.
Yeah.
Up in St. Martin actually and come back. So that's what it was like. And the big thing, Easter Monday. Easter Monday, really, people out, watching the guys running, one leg, and then somebody, if you didn't have enough people, you go the next leg.
You do that?
So that was an exciting time on Montserrat, Easter Monday weekend, a whole lot.
Yes, it was. Listen, I mean, we had two radio stations that one, we had Antilles and we had ZJP.
That's how important I think ZGP is always important to Montserrat. Mm-hmm. I mean, ZGP is like, let me see how to put it. ZGP, I don't want to say go water again, but ZGP is like, ZGP is Montserrat.
Pretty much.
There are certain things Montserrat. Arrow, Goatwater, and ZGP.
And ZGP.
Yeah. That's how important ZGP is. From back then,
right?
Cricket commentary, ZGP, Radio Montserrat. Cricket commentary, Radio Montserrat. Hurricane time, Radio Montserrat. This happened, Radio Montserrat.
Everything.
Christmas time, festival time, Radio Montserrat. There is nothing without Radio Montserrat. So, over the years, yes, you might have other stations and so on. Mm-hmm. But Radio Montserrat has and is always been an integral part of life.
Heart and soul of the country, basically.
Yes. And I'm proud to say yes that I was a part of that and still is whenever I come home. But people like Michael Jarvis, Ruben Piper, Pinky Skerry, all these people from back then, of course, Wilson White. Some I might not remember because those are some of the people who were there even before me. Mm-hmm. Bennett Roach, Howard Bramble, all these people who kept it going.
Right.
Is ZJB it was like the Zeds back then, ZJP from Montserrat. Then I said Synkids, ZDK and Tiga.
Right.
You know, and those were always, you know, once it's a Radio Montserrat, that's it, the Radio Montserrat. And as a matter of fact, once you work at Radio Montserrat, even today, once you work at Radio Montserrat back then, listen, you'll be so analyzed and scrutinized. It would have been, you know, it's amazing because I remember being on the air one time and I had to read something at Lionel Danton. Lionel Danton. I remember one night he called to ask who was that guy reading. That's how we became friends, you know, and his brother Cobbler and so on. And he actually called, which I think was one of the biggest endorsements for me. He called to ask who was the guy reading. And with those kind of people, because Lionel used to be at Radio Antilles as one of the top technicians.
Right.
So these are people, plus they've traveled extensively and so on. So these are the kind of people that, it's not a matter of being on the air. You know, these people are not just listening. These people are analyzing. If you don't sound good, and today, you see, today you have chat room and you have this such a good put in a fake name and
right.
Besides, back then you didn't have that.
No.
Like the phone. So once a person called, and especially like Montserrat, when they call and say, "Hey, this is so and so, you sound stupid." That was, you know, you didn't need to come up. When he called that night and say, "Hey," and then the next morning he passed to see who this fellow was, right? It was like, but Georgia didn't make good all this, you know. That's a lot of people, Howard Mead, Sonny King, like Cyrus, Rick Tyson, all these people, even a lot of people don't know this, but myself and radio was one of the biggest fans on Taboo. Yeah, they were like always listening in. So we became friends from there, and Fisher and all them, and
right.
And, you know, those guys. So that's how it was back then at that time.
Okay. Do you plan on taking part in the 50th? I mean, visiting or?
Well, yeah. Once things are right and fall into place, Montserrat celebrating the 50th anniversary of festival this year. That should be hot. That should be really, 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 really hot. That should be hot.
The sword man from Parana was sent forth to output a clear prospective view and be seen just by a few people, and these the natural ones Rita to clean conscience will lead the others on safely where they belong, to the total liberation, the unseen destination, man's freedom. So let them come, transgressors come. The sword man, for I see real trouble in an endless battle. Mark my word, oh, it is a two-edged sword. His voice was loudly heard. The sword man. So let them come, transgressors come. I'll sword them down. them down. The sword man.
Symbol that portrays that all humans are one. The celeste and the rest, I and I, a manifestation of the Most High. That's why only those who can attain the climax that life sustains the true outcome of the standing words, mistakenly flawed. But whenever that you do, our advanced strength is the same too, remarkable. So let them come, transgressors come, I'll sword them down, I'll sword them down. The sword man, for I see real trouble in an endless battle. Mark my word, oh, with his two-edged sword, his voice was loudly heard. The sword man, so let them come, transgressors come. I'll sword them down, I'll sword them down, the sword man. Message spy righteously way through the sword man regularly, the devastating hazards of the land. Focus is the third world vibration in the Caribbean. Comments on constructive drive forces the approach of positive facts with each link of chain holding their own strain, having the contents of each, aiming to know and to reach the original state that man held after the creative formation, the breath of freedom. So let them come, transgressors come. I'll sword them down, I'll sword them down, the sword man. For I see real trouble in an endless battle. Mark my word, oh, with his two-edged sword, his voice was loudly heard. The sword man. So let them come, transgressors come, I'll sword them down.